All right, we're back. It's COMP229, and it's the fall 2016 semester at Centennial, and it's week 6, part 3 of our broadcast. We got to take care of that navigation problem when we do security, and we also got to do the edit piece that we're missing.
One quick question.
Yes.
In some websites, when you log in, many websites that uses your user account and all that, but when you log in, you can like simply select the output, how you want your web page to be customized. Like suppose I log into my Azure, I can customize my dashboard. When I log out, someone else log in on my machine. So how does that?
You can store all that information in a session variable.
Session.
Yeah, but I would recommend against it for this project.
No,
right? That's what you do. You store it in the session variable, or we're using cookies. Yeah.
What is session?
Combination of usually. Okay. We've got our database connecting, and we've got authentication working, but we got a really ugly nav bar, right? So, well, I don't care about black white. I care about it doesn't work, right? And let's do this. So what I've done is I've got a snippet. So I'm going to go back to Site Master instead of me typing it in again, and I'll explain it. So all this in our UL has to change, right? So I've got a code snippet for navbar, and it's just everything inside the UL that I want you to grab, and we'll talk about it. So here it is inside the UL. I'm just going to replace all this with this. Okay, and let's talk about this. Okay, 1. If you guys are listening, this is the way you're going to have different nav bars. Okay, so again, what you have inside here is this. My default home is always going to show, right? Because it's out here, this list item. However, these list items and this list item and these list items are all in something called placeholders. Okay, so what I've got is my public placeholder for everything that I want someone who is not logged in to see. So for example, log in and register. Then I have my user placeholder if I have users, which I'm not going to have. I'm going to just erase that because I don't have any user management right now, right? I put it in if you want to add user management. I've given you the code snippet. Now this is my Contoso placeholder. That's what I called it. And I have this placeholder here. Okay, cool. So these placeholders, think about them as divs. That's all they are, or spans, and they're spanning around, or they're containing the list items, right? So we're going to do something like this. When the page loads, find out if you're logged in, and if you're logged in, show the Contoso placeholder along with the home button, the home link. If you're not logged in, show this one with the home link. Okay, that's what you're going to do. How do we code this? So one part is the front end. We got the front end fixed, but we got to make the back end work, right? And again, we have to modify stuff on the back end a little bit. So I'm going to click on Site Master, and I'm going to right click and go View Code. And inside my View Code, right, you can see I got some other things here, like my enrollments and my About page. I'm just going to get rid of those because I don't need them right now, right? So I don't have enrollments or even my About page is okay, but how come this is not working anymore, my About page? Because if you look at my front end, I killed it. I deleted it, right? So if I go back to my front end, so if I go back to this, double click on Site Master, right? You can see that I don't have a link anymore for this. So if I was to do an undo, right? I can't do an undo anymore because that link is gone. Don't worry about it. We can put it back. Because remember, those are things that we want to see. Maybe what I want to have is my list item here, and then on the bottom, my contact page, as well as an About page, which I'm missing, right? So everyone's leaving because they're done. They're tired. Right, I know. They're running away. So an example will be if I had an About page. I'm going to copy this one thing we're missing. And I'm going to put this, notice the order that I'm putting. It's just list items, right? I'll put this back down here. We'll call this About. Remember, because we have an About page right here, about.aspx. And we'll put that in here, about.aspx, right? Notice that I'm not using absolute positioning anymore. I'm using this /, okay? And this ID, of course, would be about. Okay. Now, if I go back to Site Master, you can see that my about should be appearing okay. Enrollments, I don't have enrollments. I took it away, right? And I have enrollments inside of my Contoso. I have it in there, but I really don't. Doesn't go there. And you know, for now, just to make it simple, let's just get rid of it, right? But in other words, you'd have to put it back, right? Okay, so I've got my active pages working, okay? I don't need this because I don't care about the page loading. I do want to do my set active pages, but I want to do some other stuff in here in my page load. I want to check to see if I'm logged in. Because if I'm not logged in, I don't care, right? So what do? First, I'll check if not is post back. So I don't want to do this if I'm posting back. I only want to do it one time, right? So check if a user is logged in. That's the first thing. How do we check that? Well, remember, I can't do anything. So even in this page, I've got to include those using statements. And just to save time, I'm going to go into my login page. I'm going to look at my code behind file, and grab these 3 using statements. So I don't have to copy, because I'm going to copy the same thing again, right? And put them in here. 1. Now that I've got those things, right? Remember what we did last time. I want to check to see if the user is logged in. And I'm going to do that by checking the context, HTTP context, right? .current, .user, right? .identity. What's the identity of the current user? And I can check .is authenticated. If that's true, if it's authenticated, then I want to show the Contoso content area, right? So it's going to be Contoso placeholder. Remember I did a Contoso placeholder? .visible is equal to true, right? But I'm going to make my public placeholder .visible is equal to false. Pretty simple, right? Else, only show, if I'm not logged in, only show login and register. That's all I want to show. And then plus the other stuff that we have in our public view, right? So I'll say Contoso placeholder.visible is equal to false. And then the public placeholder.visible is equal to true. Very simple, because remember, those are just like div tags. Turn them off, turn them on. Right? That's it. How did I work? Because notice that my placeholder, right? My placeholder for my public placeholder right now is either going to be true or false, depending on my situation, right? Okay. So visibility. Okay, let's run this thing and see if it works. And then I'll put it up online for you so you can see it. So now, if I'm not logged in, right, then I should see log in and register. Right? I still see my about, a little bit of that's wrong. I should have put an info there. So here's my about page, and here's my contact page, whatever that is, right? But if I click login, I should be able to use my tom@example.com or Thomas as my username, and my password 1234556, and click on login. And that's going to redirect me to my main menu, right? That's what it should do if everything goes well with my main menu. Right? I should be able to click add student. It takes me to the student details page to add, right? If I click cancel, it'll take me back here. I can delete, but I can delete too easily. We got to fix that next, right? But look, I have my big menu here now, right? Now I want to log out, right? I'll click log out. And now I'm back to here. My menu's changed. Yeah. You could. I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it, right? But normally they have 2 separate pages. Okay. You could also have a register now, like a little link here that takes you to a register page too. Whatever you like. That's very common, right? And it's easy to do. Okay, this is wrong. So let's just, one thing I need to do in my about page is kind of put an info. So, and just very minor things to fix that. So I'm going to go into, instead of FA phone, it's going to be FA info. There it is. So we got our that page working. Let's upload that to Team Explorer. So I'm going to go to Home, Changes. Now this one, I actually have functionality for my nav bar, updated nav bar, main nav. Right, I updated my main navigation, Home, and then, you know, sync and push. Right. Now I also made all the other logic work and everything else and connected to the database, but I'm not going to put that in. I probably would have done more commits in a real life, right, than this. Okay, now I've got that piece, but we're missing an edit. That's the piece we're missing, right, from last week. We couldn't get to it, right? So I want to change that. Log in, log out, right? And I also want to do something with my content, so that way when I click the button to delete, let's do that first. When I click the delete button, I want it to give me a question. Ask a question. Did you want to sure you wanted to delete that thing? We can't do it with C# because we're live on the page, right? So we use a little bit of jQuery for that to happen. So where do we add that in? First of all, let's go back to Solution Explorer, and I want to go to Scripts, and I want to go to app.js, and notice we have nothing in there. This is a great place to add that little jQuery in there. We're going to go back to the snippet, right? So I open the snippet, this little jQuery here, copy it, and then go back to here inside my code and paste. Okay, so what does this do? It says, hey, search, make sure the document's ready, so it's loaded, right? I don't need this, right? That's just my app started. Take a look, hey jQuery, look for any anchor tag that has a button, button danger, button small, right? So small with a button danger, a red button, right, on the page. And then if I click on it, right, say, are you sure? Any red button. That's what this is saying. Take a look at any red button, and if it's a red button, are you sure? That's all it's going to do. And if I say cool, it's going to confirm. If I say false, it's not going to do nothing, right? That's what I want to do. Let's check this out and see if it works. So if I run it now, let's add in a new user first, just to make sure we don't mess up, right? Really quickly, and then I'll do the edit. And then we're done for the day. Okay? So then we've done everything. We've done CRUD, we've done security, we've done everything, right? Okay, so let's add this in. So I'm going to go to, first of all, I want to log in, right? I'll log in. It takes me to my students. I add a new student. I'm going to add a new student called Tom Smythe. There we go, Tom Smythe. And we'll say his registration date was today somehow. So click on this. By the way, this doesn't work with Firefox, like I said. Just be aware, right? Save. It adds him in. Here's Tom Smythe in the bottom. Now I want to click delete. Remember, I have the little jQuery. So it should do this. jQuery, hey jQuery, blah, blah, blah. How come it didn't work? I'm just saying, how come it didn't work? The jQuery should trigger, right?
So you installed it?
Is it linked? Let's see. That's the thing to check. First of all, did it work? That's why I did the new one first before I deleted the older one. I don't want to delete this one. These are official. These are the official ones, right? So let's check. First thing we have to check is in the side of our site master. On the bottom, do we have our app.js anywhere? Here it is. So jQuery, Bootstrap, app.js. Okay, that's the order, right? So it does go there. Okay, cool. Let's see what happened, right? So let's try it again, except this time when we go into our scripts and go into my app.js, let's put in that console.log again. So we'll say console.log, 2 extensions supporting JS files are found. That's weird. Look at this. Install extension. That is, I've never seen that before. Console.log, and we'll say something like, you know, jQuery firing, jQuery triggering, okay? Triggering, okay? Now this jQuery is going to trigger without me pressing the button, right? This does the search for the button small. And the other thing is, did I make it exactly like this? Does it have a class of an A tag with a class of button danger, button small? Do I have that in my class? That's the other thing, for my button. So go back to Site Master, right? And then first of all, let's run this thing. So we'll see if this is triggered. So it should trigger right away. When I run my first file at the bottom of my page, if I go right and if I go inspect, and if I go to console, it should be right there. But it's not. Why is it not going? Why is it not triggering? Right? Notice that I don't have anything triggering in my, it's not, that on ready, not working. Could there be a reason why? Right? That's the question you should ask. So if I go back to this, right? It's loading right here. Here's my script, scripts app.js, scripts app.js. It's loading in there, right? But it's never getting there. The other thing is this document.ready functionality. What really is that, right? What is this document.ready? Remember what it is in the old way? It's this. It's the iffy, right? It's function with, you know, anonymous function with some kind of functionality. That's the iffy, right? What this is a self-executing anonymous function. So immediately invoked function expression. That's what this is, right? And we want, instead of a document.ready, we can put all this stuff. Let's just leave it like this. Let's see if this triggers, just this part. So I'm gonna copy this piece, copy it and put it in there. Right? So this will definitely work. If it's connected properly, my app.js is connected properly, then it'll work. Right? If it's connected properly. Let's see. It's on my site master too. Right? So every page will have that. Okay, so right click, inspect. It's also nothing. Refresh. Whoa. Okay, that's good. That's a good thing, jQuery triggering, right? Right, that's good. Guess what happened? We didn't refresh. No, we didn't refresh. It worked. The other one worked too. This both worked, right? So we can get rid of this. Now it's going to work. It's because we didn't refresh the cache. It was cached. We had a cache page, not the new page, right? So that's like the little thing we have to do. Run it. And if I do it again, so I go to students. I'm logged in still, by the way, because I didn't log out. And it remembers because my session was okay. I put in my Tom Smythe again. Tom Smythe, right? And then I go in here and I click on the date, press save. It gets added in. I click delete and, oh man, what happened? Does this class, is that class correct? Let's check. First of all, let's see is it triggering, right? So if I go inspect, do I see an error in my console? And look what it says. It says localhost contoso scripts jQuery error, right? Error. Why? Why? That's the next thing we have to check. And if I refresh again, right? Come on. Correct. Right. So now let's go back to my site master. That's very good. Look where it's looking. Is this correct? No. You have to put these ones in front. Pathing, right? Because we're looking inside. We're inside Contoso, and it's got to go back out and to get this. Otherwise, it won't see it anymore, right? Because remember, we just rejigged our entire thing right here, right? Let's try that again, right? I'm just pointing this out because you might have these kind of errors. Like, I don't know why it's not working. This is why, right? And then some other effects, like buttons won't work or something won't work, and you don't know what it is, right? Well, this is the reason. Okay, let's try it again. So I'm going to go back to students. I'm logged in still. I'm going to add a new student, and then I'm going to add a new one. We'll add Jane Smythe this time. How about that? The wife of Tom Smythe, right? And we'll give her, you know, she was registered last week, Friday, right? Save. Yay. Delete. That's what I want. So now if I say, are you sure you want to delete this record? If I press OK, it's going to delete. If I press cancel, it's OK. Right, if I do it again, if I press OK, bye-bye. Okay, little code, little jQuery, a little bit better functionality, right? Because you don't want it to delete just like this by accident, right? Okay, and we also fixed a problem, which is what I want. That's why I did this whole thing in the first place, to enter this problem. All right, let's do the next part. Let's log out, right? And let's fix our edit functionality, right? So remember, we've done a bunch of stuff already. See all the pages I got going on? Look at right? That's crazy. We did the edit, right? Or sorry, we did the other stuff, right? But we didn't do fix up our students. And there's a couple things we need to make our edit work. One, we need some kind of button, right? No button. There's no way of editing anything. We don't know what's going to be edited, right? So we need to have that. And we're going to put that above or before the delete button, okay? So let's go back. Okay, and we're going to go back to what we had before, which is our, inside of our Contoso folder, we're going to go into student, not in student details yet, students, right? And inside students, right, notice that we only have this delete button. We need to add another kind of button. And this is a new thing we didn't get to last week. So we'll finish off with this one. We're going to do ASP.NET hyperlink field, something new. So we've got a command field, does a command. Hyperlink field acts like a hyperlink and transfers information in the hyperlink, right? So hyperlink field, the header text is equal to edit, right? My text, though, is equal to, and this is where it gets funky again, remember? We do the I class, right, with a class of FA pencil square dash O, so the outline of a pencil, right? That's what it is. And then we say FA dash large, and we close that off. Right, that's the text, right? The text of the actual button itself, the link, if you will, right? And then we need, after we do this, edit. It has to say edit. There we go, right? That's number one. Okay. Then we need something called a navigate URL. So where are we going to go with this thing? It's a special URL that takes us to where we have to go, which equals to, again, we want to go to Contoso, right? And then / student details. Just if I can press properly. Student details. Okay. I'm happy that everyone's going to be awesome. .cs. Okay. And control style, right, which we want to have that dash CSS class, the CSS class of the control style. Hold on, let me open that up here for a second. Is equal to, what is it going to look like? It's going to be a button dash primary, right? Button dash small. So small button. Okay. And then, of course, we want to run at the server, right? Run at equals to server. And then, right, we can keep going, but that's what it is. Our data navigation URL fields, right, is equal to student ID. So we're basically passing in the ID that we're comparing, right? And then our data navigation format string is the format string that's going to be sent to the page, which is going to look like this: student details. Actually, I'll do this on the next line so you guys can see it better. Okay. All right. Is data. So student details. I want you to think of this how it's going to look on the page. Dot ASPX question mark, right? And then the student ID is equal to, and we're going to interpolate here whatever the ID is that we're getting. Why? Why are we doing this thing? Okay, and then we're going to close off the actual thing. So that whole thing, this hyperlink, is the hyperlink we need to say, hey, here's the edit button, and then we're going to navigate. This is the control, right? The navigate URL is going to take us into this place, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to say our control style is making a button, a blue button. That's what this is. We're going to run it to the server. So we're going to run it in the server. Our data navigation URL fields, we're going to compare the student ID to make sure whatever the student ID is going to go right in here, right? So we're going to edit this student ID. That's what we're doing. We have to tell, you know, the student details page, what are we editing? Whew. That's number one. Okay, now that we have that, right, let's test it and see what it does, right? Yes. Yes, yes. So if I go log in, right, it's going to take me to my main menu. I'm going to click on student list. Now my student list is going to look different, right? If I did everything correct, you should see the edit button. Okay. Now, if I click the edit button, it's going to take me, oh, what happened to my I tag? That's wrong. I can tell right away it's wrong. I'm missing my I tag. I'm missing the button. Something doesn't look right. Yeah, let's stop this. We're still logged in. It's okay. Let's stop and see what we did wrong, right? Here. So FA class is equal to. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how it is, guys. You know, you look at it and you go, that's why we do one change at a time. The most important thing is one small change, one small change. Notice I'm not doing the entire application. It's too much, right? So you do one small change at a time until you're done. And now it looks better, right? Now if I click on edit, right? Let's say I want to edit, let's add a new one first to make it easy. So we don't kill anything, right? So we'll say John Doe. John Doe, right? And you know, whatever his, let's say today, fine, save. We add that, we know we can add it, now we're gonna edit. Okay, now it takes us here, and look at the string on the top. It says student details that ASPX student ID 3040001. That's good. So we're sending the student ID inside the field of who we're accessing, right? We're modifying this student ID, okay? Once we send this information across, we can do something with it. We can fill it in here. And then we can save whatever change we make. Let's do the next piece. So again, that's the first piece. The first piece is creating an edit button, right? And now I'm just going to do a quick check to see if there's anything else we have to do in the back end. I don't think there is. I think the back end is complete, actually, from last week. Because the student details page, all it does is, well, actually, I have some other things we can do from paging and sorting, which I'm not going to do unless I have time, unless I finish this really quickly. I want to do the student details page first. Student details page. Okay, so we get the student details page. We have all that layout. That's all nice. But the back end is what we have to worry about, right? Student details on the back end. So let's take a look at the back end and modify the back end now. All right, so on page load. On page load. First of all, we check to see if it's a post back, right? It's a nice thing to do. So not is post back. Not is post back. Right? If not, it's post back. And this is important. I want to do two things. I want to check this, so it's not post back, and that we get some kind of URL string, right? And our request includes some kind of query string, right? And the count of the query string is greater than 0. So we have some kind of query with the count being greater than 0. Then, if that's true, we want to get the student. We don't have a get student, do we? Get student. What I'm saying is, hey, call the get student method, right? I don't have a get student method, so we're going to make one. Why am I getting the student? I'm filling it in. I'm filling the details from the URL link inside the form, right? That's what I'm doing here. Let's add that in. So protected, void, get student. Right, as an example, you can also make it private. It's okay. So I'm going to say populate the form with existing data from the DB, right, from the database. And I'll say my student ID, right, is equal to, I'm going to convert, right, to int32. Okay, my request is important to do dot query string, right? And we're going to pass in the student ID, whatever we get. So that whatever the student ID is, we're going to convert it to an integer. Now that 304 whatever is an integer, because that's what a student, that's what all my IDs are, integers, right? Next, once I've done this, I'm going to connect to the entity framework, right, database. I'm going to say using Contoso context, right? DB is equal to new Contoso context. So I'm getting a new database reference, a reference to the database. That's what I'm doing here. And I'm going to populate a student object, right, instance with the student ID, right, from the URL parameter, from the URL parameter, which is what we're getting after the question mark, right, whatever that is. How do we do that? We say it's a type student, right, and we're going to call this updated student, or student update, which is equal to from, here's the link statement, student in db.students. So we're looking in that table and we're saying where student ID is exactly equal to student ID. We've done before. Select student. I want to do first or default. So you give me back the first one or default. So this updated student now has the information of the student that exists in the database that we got from the URL from the top, right? Whatever that was. Now, if we were successful. If we're not successful, it might give us a null, and then we can throw an error. Now what I want to do is map the student properties to the form control. That's what I want to do here, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to say if updated student, right, is not equal to null, so I have some kind of data that I'm getting back from my updated student, then I want to say last name text box dot text is equal to updated student dot last name. Right, that's right from the database. And the same thing goes for first name text box dot text is equal to updated student dot first mid name. And then the last one is enrollment date text box dot text is equal to, now this is a little different because we have to convert, right? So I'll bring it a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. Because the date we're converting, or say updated student dot enrollment date dot toString, sorry, toString, and then I want to pass in what I'm looking for, which is year, right? Month, day. If you don't do that properly, then when you put it in, it won't look properly. It won't look right. It won't work, actually. It'll give you an error. All right, so that's what this piece does. So this piece just reads the database. We haven't done anything yet. All we're doing is reading the database, right? Okay, but I've prepared some stuff down here. Down here, I say, look, remember I said right here, request query string is greater than 0, so we know this thing. We haven't done this yet, but we want to get the ID from our URL, and then we want to do something here. We've almost got half of it in here already, right? So the rest of it is like this. We add more stuff in here. We say student ID, right, is equal to convert. And again, you can write this a little differently if you're going to write it from with a class .toIn32. We're doing it twice, right? Request query string. We already did this, right? And we don't have to do it this way. We can store this as a class value, right? So we're converting it to an integer, right? And once I've got my integer, I can get the current student, right? That's when we get the current student from the EF database, which is exactly what I'm doing again when I'm saving it. So one I'm displaying, the other one is I'm saying new student is equal to, again, from student in db.student. A lot of duplication, right? Students. This works nicely. Where student student ID is equal to student ID. This is local to this one, to this method. And then what do I want to do? I want to do a select statement. That's the last part, which is my student, whatever the student I found, and then first or default. First or default. There we go. All right, now why can I put this in here and how does it work just like this? Well, because look, I've already declared a new student up here. And now what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm assigning it some value already, right? I'm assigning it the value that I'm getting from the database, right? That's what I'm doing, okay? If the query string count is greater than 0. If it's not, then I just want to take my new value and put it in there. It will be empty, right? And that's it. Let's check it out and see if it works. Notice I've also updated the Contoso students and everything else that's been done. I'm going to run this thing for the first time and then see if we can edit a student, right? Now remember, this will fail. This editing will fail if I'm editing while Wendell is deleting. That can happen, right? Because I'm not locking the state, right? So notice right now, because I went student details, there's nothing because I don't have anything in my path, right? But if I go to students, right, and I want to list my students and I want to modify John Doe to Jane Doe, right? Now it fills in the details, right? Now I can make this Jane instead of John, right? And click save. And when I do that, now it's Jane. So how did I do that? I mean, I did it and you saw the magic, but what does it mean, right? Well, a couple of things that happen, and I think you need to watch this for it to work for you. One, when I click the edit button, what am I sending across? The ID of the student, right? That's the first thing. That ID is the key, right? And I do that because, like I said before, right, inside my student, in my Solution Explorer, in my students.aspx, I added this additional hyperlink field, right? Which takes the student details ASPX. This is the pattern that it sends across, right? And it sends in an interpolated value that goes right here inside on the URL field. This is the data navigate URL, right? And the format string that I'm sending across. That's the first. Second, on the receiving end, right, what I'm getting is I check it at the beginning. So when the page loads, which is right here, I say, hey, if the page loads, fill it up. Fill up my data from the database in there. Good. Now I've got the database filled up, but what I want to do is after I filled it up, which I'm updating the student, this is the updated student that I'm putting in there, all I'm doing is setting up everything that's in there, okay, for the first time. Then when I do this, when I do the update, I check to see if I'm updating. If I'm updating, I want to get a reference to the correct student again. So there's two parts. One, I want to get the data. Second thing, and I want to fill in the data, right? And the second part, which I'm a little bit repeating here, is I'm getting a reference to the student that I'm updating, right? That's all I'm doing, right? That's the updated student. And once I've got that reference, I'm going to assign the data from the form, just like normal when I add a new student. But this one, without going through this piece, just creates a new empty student, right? That's all it does. This piece gets a reference to the student that already exists. And then I don't do the add, right? I don't do the add new student because my student ID is equal to 0, which is just a flag. If my student ID is equal to 0, right? I set up a flag. So if my student ID is equal to 0 means I don't have a student ID, right? However, if I have a student ID, right, I want to set this student ID not to 0 anymore. I don't want to add it in because my student ID wouldn't be 0, right, once I convert. I convert, it's not 0 anymore. It's something else, 3, 4, 0, whatever, blah, blah, right? And because I have a student ID that's not 0, right, then I don't do this. I don't add a new student. I just edit. That's how it works. So I can use one page, student details, to do both edit and add. We've got delete. We've got create, right? we've got edit, we got read. We can do it all now. We've got full CRUD on the database. Okay, I was going to do sorting and searching, sorting and paging, right? For those people who want to see it, I'll continue. For those people who don't want to see it or who don't want to, they want to go home because it's late and my voice is cracking already, it's okay. You can go, right? But how do I do sorting and everything else anyway? Because this table can get very long. This table here, if I go to my student table, this table can get long. I can have a lot of students and I can't see them all, right? I want to have a long list of stuff and I want to be able to page and sort and everything, right? And by the way, this is for the bonus marks on the exam, because I will ask, I'll give you guys bonus if you can do sorting and paging, right? So how do I do it? Since you guys stayed, I'll show you. First of all, we need some stuff on the front end for it to work, right? The student page itself can't work, right? It cannot work without the details being put on the front end. So first of all, when we do this piece, and I'll do it all at once, here's my students, right? Right now what we have is a student list, which is this. And we also have a button that adds a new student. That's what this does, okay? We're gonna make some space. And inside of here, what I wanna do is I wanna add another control, which is an ASP drop-down list. Here's my drop-down list. I'm gonna have an ID of page size drop-down list. Here's my page size drop-down list, which I'm gonna run at the server. Okay. I wanna say my auto postback, right, is equal to true. Because what I want this to do is as soon as I change it, it's going to post back to the server right away to send the value of what my list is going to be immediately, right? Before I submit the page, my changes, right? My CSS class is going to be equal to button default, right? And it's going to be button small. Thank you. And drop down toggle. That's what it is. That's the class that's going to look like. Okay, drop down toggle. Now here's the event on selected index changed. Right when the index is changed, right? It's going to trigger an event. That's going to be page size drop down list check changed event or selected index changed event. Right? Okay. That's the first part. Now we need to decide on the list items. So ASP list item. And the first one, we're going to make a text value of 3. Right? And the value is going to be equal to 3. So it's going to say 3 and the value is going to be equal to 3. Same thing with, we'll say 3, 5, 10, and then everything. Okay? So those are the options for your how many options are there? 3, 5, 10, and all. So 3. Just the options that you're going to see 5, 10, right? 10. Now, how would you handle all? Anybody have an idea? How about 10,000? Right? 10,000 items, right? Chances are that's going to be every item, right? It's a trick, right? All right, that's one thing. And you know what? We also want some kind of label, right? So we want to label an actual HTML label for is equal to, and we want to get this page size drop-down list, copy, right? And we want to say records per page. There's how many records per page you want to allow. Okay, records per page. So that's the first part. And you know, we could put this in a div tag. I don't mind. I can probably style this later on if I want to. For now, we'll just leave it in its own div tag. Just that way you can see what I'm talking about here. Here's the only div tag. Right now we have no styling for this thing, just except for that. Okay, so that's the first piece. So paging, how many items are in the page, right? Okay, now we got to make changes to our grid view. So auto-generate columns equal to false, CSS class, on-row deleting. Okay, here's the next thing we're going to do after on-row deleting, right? We're going to say allow paging, right? Allow paging, which is equal to true, right? So we're going to allow paging to happen, right? It's built-in functionality. We're going to say our default page size, right, is equal to 3, right? Actually, yeah, we'll make it 3 for now. And on sorting, we want to do sorting as well. Might as well, if we're going to do sorting. When we want to sort the page, we want to say that create a new event, trigger that event. So student grid view sorting, right? Allow paging. And then what we're going to do is on-row data bound, right, is equal to a new event that we're going to have to put in place. I know it's crazy, but we're also going to go pager style, and we're going to say the CSS class, which we've already set up, is that one that I already put in your class, which is pagination, right, -ys. That's the one I made for you. Let's make sure I got everything. Data keys, student ID, on page index changing. Do I have that? Nope. If we don't have that, we're a problem. So on page index changing. Wait. We're deleting. On page index changing. When the index is changing, we'll say that it is no. Sorry. Yes, that's it. Student grid view page index changing, right? And we have to also allow sorting, which we didn't do. So allow sorting is equal to true. So we're allowing sorting and paging, all done on the front end, and we're basically saying you can do one or the other, but we've got a couple of events we don't have anything for. We have nothing in there. We have to set those events up for things to work. So first we do the stuff on the front end, and then we fix the stuff on the back end. Okay, we're almost there, I swear. Okay, I'm lying. We have a lot of stuff to do. Right. That's what I'm saying. If you want to stay, this is the way to get your bonus marks, right? So we have all these things to fill in. Look, select index change, sorting, row data bound, page index changing, all these things we have to do. Okay. First of all, we need some setup, because up here, if it's not is post back, right? We want to do a couple things. We want to set up a session object to keep track of our situation. So we're going to say our sort column is very important to keep track of. And we're going to set the default sort column to the student ID, right? That's the default sort column, right? So just in case, that's what it's going to be sorted by student ID, default sort column. Okay. And then we'll say another session. We'll use the session variable for the first time, right? So you can see what it looks like. And the sort direction is very important too, right? Which is ascending or descending. What is it, right? So I'll say the default sort direction is ascending. And it's important to put it in like that too. Okay, next. We'll get the student data. So first we set up some stuff, right? We set up the session variables, then get the student data. That's good. Okay, let's make sure as we get the student data, we get it properly. So we get it properly, la la la. And before we do this stuff here, inside the using statement, and before we declare our students, right? What we want to do is something like this. We want to say string, our sort string, is equal to the session, right? Sort column, whatever that is, right? So in this particular case, it is the student ID, string, plus, let's see what I'm doing in a second, plus the session, I'll put over here, session sort direction, right? And then toString. Okay, why? What we're doing is we're making a query. We're going to add this query when we do our query. Okay, we haven't done it yet, but we're going to first we create the string and we do that in here. Okay, then when we bind the result, right? Instead of just doing students to list, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do students dot as queryable dot order by sort string sort string, there we go, dot to list. Now we're getting an error because we're missing a using statement, right? So there's something that's missing here as an extension, right? That's where we're getting this issue. And this is where we need that other using that I added in at the end, using system.link.dynamic, right? Which allows me to get that sorting value handled, right? That was the thing I added in at the end. Remember I added all these things in the packages.config file? That was one of them. And that allows this piece, this order by, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this. Okay, so I'm getting a list. This is the same. Everything's fine. Okay, I got my row deleting, right? My row deleting doesn't matter. It's not going to be affected by my sorting, right? This is all the same, this stuff here. Now we're into this stuff. And this is where we have to be very careful because I put it in the wrong order, right? So page index changing is the first one we're going to do. And it's not that difficult, actually. It says this. It says set the new page number, almost done, to the student's grid view, right, dot page index, right, which is equal to E, right, that's the row, dot new page index. And now what I want to do is refresh the grid view, which is this dot get students. I call get students, it redoes the grid view. It just rebinds everything from the database, right? Okay, so that's what this does. So my page index changing, I change whatever. If I say 3, 5, or 10, it changes the amount of things that I want to see, whatever it says there. And that happens automatically when I click the drop-down list that I'm going to have, right? That's number one. The next one is page size drop-down list itself, which is, did I get that one? This one. Page size drop-down list, select it. So when set the new page size, whatever the new page size is, right? So I'll say students grid view, right, dot page size, right, whatever that is, equals to, we're going to convert, all right, to int32, and convert to whatever we get. Remember, anytime we get something from the UI, we have to convert from string, even if it's a drop-down list, to some kind of integer if we're going to deal with it. And we're going to say page size drop-down list, right, dot selected value. We're going to get a selected value from there, whatever the selected value is. So it's 3, 5, or all, whatever it is, right? Okay, and then we're going to refresh the database, refresh the list, refresh the grid, right? Which is this dot get students. Okay, that's this page. That's the page size drop-down list. Okay, now when we want to sort, okay, sort the students grid view sorting. Almost there. We want to get the column, right, to sort by, whatever that is. So we're going to use a session variable. That's where we're storing everything, right? That's what we can get a route. That's what the session variable is really good for, because we can store it between access to the server, right? And this can solve a lot of problems, right? Is equal to E, right, dot sort expression, whatever the sort expression is. And then, of course, afterwards, we're going to refresh the grid view. Every time we do something, right? This, that. And now, the last one is the row data bound, which is a little bit longer. Did I miss something? I did. So we want to change the direction. So one, we did the, with one, we did the sort expression, this one. And then we refresh the table, right? And then we want to toggle the direction. So what we want to say is, okay, so we want to say something like this. We want to say session, before this stuff is done, because we're going to click on it. Whenever we click on the sorting view, we're going to toggle the direction. So toggle the direction, right? So whatever it is, it's going to be like this. It's going to be session, and then it's going to be sort direction, whatever we clicked on, right? Is equal to session sort direction toString, and if it's equal to, is it equal to ascending? If it is, we're using ternary operator here. Make it descending, right? Otherwise, keep it ascending. So this is just a turn. This is like a bunch of if statements. So basically, we're saying if the sort direction toString is already ascending, then make it descending, and if otherwise, make it ascending again, and assign it to the sort direction. We're just doing it in one line. Okay, cool. That's happening there. Now, the row data bound. This is the last piece, and then we're home free. If is post back, we're going to check if it's a post back, right? If we do post back, which we want to do that if we're changing anything, right? Because if not post back means I want to go to the server. If I'm back from the server from the view, that's good. I want to check to see. I want to say if e.row type, as an example, is exactly equal to data control row type, right? Dot header. So if it's the header row, right? If header row has been clicked, that's what this is, right? That makes sense? Then, what do I want to do? My link button, right? I want to make a link button of type, it's going to be called link button, is equal to a new link button. I want to create a link button. Here's my link button, right? Here's my for loop. And I'm going to say index, in this particular case. For my index, if it's less than, I'm cycling through to correct this thing, right? Students grid view columns count. If it's less than that, -1, then increase the iteration. Just keep going through all. So I'm basically counting columns from one column to the other. That's what I'm doing, right? And then if my students grid view columns index, so if that column that I'm talking about is my sort expression for that one, if it's equal to the session sort column, if it's the one I'm clicking on, toString, then I want to check to see if, again, my session sort direction, right, .toString is equal to ascending. I can't do that ternary operator because I got to do more things in here this time around, right? And if it is, my link button text is equal to, this is where I'm going to make that little caret that looks like a carrot, right? Is equal to I with a class of fa dot caret dash up fa dash large, right? And then I'll explain this in a second. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, create a link button, and that link button is going to take is not going to have any text in there. It's just going to have a caret. It's going to have a little arrow that goes down, right? As an example, or up, depending on what it is. This is caret up in this case, right? Else, my link button dot text. So I've created a link button, right? Dynamically is equal to I class is equal to fa dash caret dash down, if I'm not wrong. Fa large. And then I. Yeah, that's that part. Then p.row.cells index. So I'm looking at the row, right? Dot count. Oh, sorry, controls. Sorry, controls. Dot add my link button. So add the link button, whatever it is. If it's an arrow that goes up or it's an arrow that goes down, I'm going to add it to the column that's next to the header text. Phew. That should be it. Now let's test it out and see if it works. It looks monstrous, and it really is. That's why I didn't expect you. And again, I don't expect you to know it, but what I do expect you to do is I expect you to see it and understand what I've just done, right? At least from a high level, right? If you had to do it, you could probably do it if you worked hard on it. But why should you work harder? I'm just going to give you the code, right? Because it's a pattern. It's just a pattern that I'm getting you to do, right? So first of all, I'm going to go to my students, and I should see a drop-down list now. That's what I should see, right? Which is totally different than what I saw before. Right, there it is. So now I can see, well, I only have 3 items, 1, 2, 3, and I have some paging down here, right? And by the way, my app.css is not kicking in, right? Because I can tell you right now, my paging would look different than this. Should actually have, looks like pages, right? So yeah, check that out. So you can see why, if I inspect, why am I getting any error? Well, jQuery is triggering, we know that. But how come I'm not getting my stuff working here? This should be triggering too, right? Number 1. 2, if I change to 5, I should see 5 now, right? And if I see all, I should see all of them. If I go back to 3, I should see 3 again. And if I click on the 3rd page, I should see the 3rd page. That's what it does. So sorting and page, no, sorry, that's paging. Now sorting. And this is where you can see that I have to refresh. Let's refresh the screen for a second. I want to refresh because for a couple of reasons. One, notice that I can't click on these things. They're not clickable. So I know already I have a problem.
Actually, there are 4 rows of the students. There are only 4 rows.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, but you know why?
Plus 1 row.
Because I'm clicking on the 2nd page. If I go to the 1st page, it's up to 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there's only 9 students. That's why I'm only getting that many, right? So I got some problems already. I can tell you right now. Like it doesn't do all the. It doesn't. I can't click on these. These aren't clickable, right? Because in that scenario, I should be able to click on these things and I should get my caret and all that stuff. So there's something that's wrong that I missed. Okay, I can tell you right away. And the place to check that is the front end now, not the back end, because remember that whole big list of add this and remove that and add sorting and add this and allow this. I got to be able to check all that stuff because one of those items I missed. Okay, so I'm just going to check this out to make sure. So it's in here. The problem is in here because I'm not allowing the paging to happen, right? So I got to go through it for a second and just check. So again, grid view, run at server. Do I have that? Yes. Student grid view, right? My CSS class is table, table border, table striped. Auto-generate columns equal to false, right? Data key name, student ID. If I don't have that, then I wouldn't be able to do anything, right? On-row deleting, I have that. Students, so I can delete my students. Allow paging, that's true. Page size is equal to 3, right? On sorting, right? Sorry, on page index changed. Students grid view, page index changing. Okay, good. That was, okay, allow sorting. There it is, equal to true. Okay, on sorting. Students grid view, sorting. Okay. On row data bound, students grid view data bound, row data bound. Okay, pager style, CSS class is pagination -ys. Okay, now let me just check see if there's anything else I need. Oh yes, I remember. I forgot some stuff. Oh yes. Here, I need to put a sort expression, right, which is equal to the student ID, believe it or not. And I got to do that for every one of them, and they have to match what these things are. If I don't put a sort expression, I don't get a link. Sort expression is equal to last name, and they have to match the name in the database. Sort expression is equal to first mid name. That's just silly, eh? And this one will be sort expression is equal to enrollment date. Yeah. Okay. We're 9 minutes over. I so apologize, but there's no other way to show you this. I want to give you guys all the bonus since you're here, and for the people who are watching too, right? Because someone's going to watch this thing eventually to the end, right? All right. Now, you see the difference? You can see that these ones are the ones I can sort by. So if I sort by last name, now I see the caret, right? And if I go the other way, it goes this way. Let's look at the whole list. So the whole list, if I go this way, you can see, or the other way, I should sort by inverse order. Same thing with first name, right? Arturo to Yan, or enrollment date. Okay, so we have here sorting. Now, if I go back to paging 3, I still got these ugly pages happening, and the reason for this is our content in our CSS, right? So remember, when we do our CSS, we have to point to it the right way too. And if you look, that is going to be a problem of our site master page. So my site master page, if you notice, has Bootstrap and Font Awesome, but there's no app.css, which we have to add in. So I'm going to go one of these, and we're going to put that in there, and we're going to say app.css. Okay. Little changes here and there. And you might think this is like nothing, right? But you could do this, no problem. But this is like years of developing this thing, right? To the point where I can do this in this order, right? Where some student says, hey, professor, how about sorting? Hey, professor, how about paging? Hey, professor, how about that paging looking nicer than you showed us, right? And then now, see, the paging is nicer. See, the paging has these like little pages, right? And then you can add as much CSS as you want here to make it look beautiful. So on the exam, to finish off, the options are going to be, if you make it sorting, right, and paging, you add those in, there's going to be a bonus. Just letting you know, since you stay to the end, right? Or if you watch this later on, for people who are watching. There you go. Questions. Whew, covered a lot of stuff today, right? We covered security. We fixed your editing problem, right? We added sorting and paging on the main site, and we've only done students. So imagine if you're going to do departments, or if you're going to, I'm saying, and if you're going to do the other ones, right? Courses, or if you're going to do users, right? You can do any of those things, any of the same stuff. It's all grid views. You can take the same pattern. And by the way, will there be a grid view on the exam? Absolutely. There's going to be a grid view. So study this pattern. This is the pattern that I'm going to have on the exam, 100%. Okay? Any questions around this? Thank you so much for sticking around. I know it's a lot of stuff to go through, but I think it's worthwhile because you've got the whole gamut of everything. I'm going to put it up on GitHub because without this on GitHub, you guys will all be lost, right? And there's a lot of stuff. Yes?
For the audit, it's next week. Should you basically, like, of course, we should have to use the map, but should we focus on script, like stuff for the assignment that you showed us so far, which is good.
if you focus on the stuff for the second parts, like the database, that stuff, because I've done 3 weeks of it, right? I mean, really, you have to understand site master pages. You have to understand how to put pages together. That's from the first assignment too, right? So all those things up till now, right, you should understand how to do on your own, right? Make sense? There we go. Okay, I'm going to push this up so that way, no, that's not what I wanted. I want to push this up so that everybody has it. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and I appreciate you waiting around.
Thank you, sir.